Dock gangways versus ramps. What's the difference? Most dock owners call this a ramp, and they call this a ramp too, but they are not necessarily the same thing. One is usually short, simple, and meant for a relatively stable shoreline. The other is longer, hinged, and designed to move as a floating dock rises and falls. And that difference matters because the connections, the movement, and the inspection points are completely different. Today I'm going to show you the differences between a dock ramp and a gangway, how each one works, and what you should inspect before a loose pin, damaged hinge, or slippery walking surface becomes a safety problem. Both ramps and gangways provide access between land and a dock, but the source material I reviewed separates them mainly by their length, design, shoreline conditions, water level adaptability, and the type of dock they serve. A ramp is described as a shorter slope connection, while a gangway is generally a longer hinged walkway designed to accommodate movement. By the end of this video, you'll know how to identify each one, why a gangway needs to move, what parts are most likely to fail, and what to include in your annual dock inspection. So what is a dock ramp? A dock ramp is generally the simpler of the two systems. A ramp is a short, sloped structure, typically around 4 to 10 feet long, that connects the shoreline to a dock. It may be made from aluminum, wood, or composite material. The important characteristics are short, simple, sloped, usually used where the shoreline is relatively stable, often associated with stationary or seasonal docks. A ramp may have side edging, but it may not have full handrails. Because it is usually used over a short distance, it does not need the same kind of structural truss system that a long gangway may require. A gangway is usually longer and more complex. It is a longer hinged walkway, often 12 to 30 feet or more, that connects land to a floating dock or platform. Gangways commonly include handrails and are designed to adapt to changing water levels. The key word here is movement. A floating dock rises and falls. The shoreline does not. The gangway bridges those two different elevations. That means at least one end must be able to pivot, slide, and roll, or otherwise accommodate movement. As the water rises, the gangway angle becomes flatter. As the water drops, the gangway becomes steeper. That repeated movement is exactly why the hinge, pins, rollers, fasteners, and dock connection deserve close inspection. A gangway normally has two important ends. The short end, this may include hinge brackets, pivot plates, pins, bolts, welded connection plates. The dock end may include a transition plate, rollers, wheels, a hinge plate, a pin connection, sliding hardware. Some systems are hinged at the shoreline and roll on the floating dock. Others are hinged or pinned at both ends. The exact connection varies by manufacturer and dock design. The gangway safety source specifically highlights hinge plates and dock wheels as features used to permit smooth movement. The connection must permit movement without becoming loose or stable. Both ramps and gangways provide access between land and a dock. You can separate them mainly by their length, design, shoreline conditions, water level adaptability, and the type of dock they serve. A ramp is a shorter slope connection, while a gangway is generally a longer hinged walkway designed to accommodate movement. By the end of this video, you'll know how to identify each one, why a gangway needs to move, what parts are most likely to fail, and what to include in your annual dock inspection. Why gangway safety matters? Well, what do you see in this picture? A wet gangway, algae growing on the gangway, a loose rail, rusted fastener. Gangways are high-traffic walking surfaces over water. That creates several obvious risks: slips, trips, falls, loose handrails, unexpected movement, corroded connections, poor nighttime visibility. You need to always have secure footing, adequate load capacity, corrosion-resistant materials, non-slip surfaces, guardrails, and routine inspections to stay safe. Slippery surfaces, loose handrails, poor lighting, and excessive gangway movement are potential hazards. Hinges, pins, handrails, transition plate, deck surface, fasteners, corrosion, welds, rollers or wheels, and the dock connection all need to be inspected every time you inspect your dock system. Ramp or gangway, which one do you have? Ask these 5 questions. Is it short and simple? Does it connect to a fixed dock? Does the water level stay relatively stable? Is it mostly a basic slope walking surface? Does it have little or no movement hardware? That is probably a ramp. Now ask, is it long? Does it have handrails? Is one end hinged? Does it connect to a floating dock? Does it move as water level changes? That is probably a gangway. A ramp and a gangway may look similar at first glance, but they solve different access problems. A ramp is usually short and simple. A gangway is longer, hinged, and designed to move with the floating dock. And because it moves, it has more connections, more wear points, and more components that need inspection. And you can also use a dock inspection checklist to help you inspect the rest of your dock component. One component at a time.